many times.
And fly into Newark. Yeah, right.
It's an easy
Renting
drive.
a car.
It's an easy drive.
Yeah.
What time you flying?
About 4:30 Monday afternoon.
Oh, it's gonna be hard.
It is?
Rush
Did you
hour?
say Allentown?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 4:30, and this budget hearing before the Carefree Town Council will come to order. Silent roll call, please. Item number 1, public hearing. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of Resolution 2023-06, determining and adapting estimates of proposed expenditures by the town of Carefree the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024, in declaring that such shall constitute the budget for the town of Carefree for such fiscal year. Mr. Neese.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This slide in front of you explains the overall budget process. We explained it to you at our last budget meeting. But for those at home, real briefly, there's 3 phases in our budget process. The first phase is data collection. It takes several months. Incrementally, we receive information from the state and other agencies that we contract with, and they firm up those numbers through the winter and spring. Once those numbers are firmed up, we then share that data with the council and community in a series of workshops. We conducted 2 workshops in our second phase in May. The first workshop, as typical, you heard from town staff and all the managers. They talked about their workload, their trends, and special projects that might be coming up over this next fiscal year. The second workshop followed up with the numbers, essentially what all that means, and that was incorporated into the budget. Then at the June council meeting, we started the approval process. And that approval process considered the adoption of the bottom line, the preliminary budget. That was the $14.8 million figure that we shared with you at that time. That's our expenditure limit for this next fiscal year. Today we're having the final step in that approval process, and that's our budget hearing. Prior to the hearing process, we populate the Auditor General's forms, which every community within the state of Arizona does. We advertise them, and they're available to the public. That is the approved budget for each and every municipality within the state. That's the Auditor General forms, which are attached to your agenda tonight. However, we also have the program-based budget that I prepare, which is a narrative that explains how the public money is invested in the town of Carefree. Most communities do a similar budget process, similar document to this. We've had a number of folks that have come in and spoke to me about this document and are pleased. They didn't understand how we spent our money, and they started reading this document. And it is a quick read. I encourage the residents to download it online and see for themselves how this money is invested in our community, because it's pretty simplistic and it's a very quick read. So that document is also available, has been available since the end of May on our website.
Would you repeat the name on that, Gary, for everybody again, please?
This is our program-based budget. Yes, yes. So this is the budget dashboard for this next fiscal year. This is something I do every year. And it's a very high-level review of how the money is coming into the community and what it's invested in. On the left side is the overall revenues. We're looking at approximately $7.6 million coming in over this next fiscal year. And we have a very sales tax-centric model. About 60% of our revenue is anticipated through our municipal sales tax. The rest of it is state shared revenue and our cost recovery fees. Of that
Gary,
yes.
remind me what the cost recovery fees are?
The cost recovery fees, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, are the fees that we assess for services. So for example, building permit fees. We assess a fee per the valuation of that permit, and that helps offset the costs that staff spends in plan review and inspection services. So. There is one-time fees associated with that $7.6 million, and that's important to note. Those are fees that we collect today that may not be there tomorrow. That's construction sales tax that we collect off of new homes, And one-time adjustment, if you recall, I explained how the state income tax has been recalibrated to the new flat tax, and that we're going to be playing a catch-up game because the tax that we collected this year is actually tax that was paid to the state 2 years ago. So that's at the higher figure. It's higher than the 2.5% flat tax. In 2 years, we won't receive that revenue. So we had an adjustment of 3% of what we collect in our state income tax, from 15% to 18%. The 18% is being assessed on state income tax that was collected at a higher ratio 2 years ago. When we catch up to the 15% in 2 years, we will then have a reduction in our state income tax. So there's one-time revenue that we're receiving through that state income tax that we will not receive in 2 years. So that there is some additional funds there. About $600,000 in additional funds in both the construction sales tax and the state income tax. As far as the anticipated expenses, we're anticipating about $7 million in operational expenses, the majority of which, 41%, are devoted to public safety, most notably our contract with Rural Metro and our contract with MCSO. As far as capital improvements, as we age, we have to invest in our capital infrastructure. Much like our own health, as we age, we get ailments and our costs go up. Our medical bills go up. Similar to infrastructure, as it ages, the costs go up because there's ailments within our infrastructure that we have to manage and maintain. So we have developed plans to maintain our infrastructure through our capital improvement plan. And we have investments in drainage control. We have investments in pedestrian crosswalks. We have investments in town center improvements, and we'll discuss some of those at our regular agenda tonight. We'll also have investments in water infrastructure that Greg has reviewed with the budget meeting with the water company. And we have investments in fire apparatus. We'll have a discussion tonight on the replacement truck. So those are investments in our aging infrastructure that will make to a total of about $7.4 million. $4 million of which will come out of our reserve funds, the money that we've set aside to invest in this aging infrastructure. So, in conclusion, the Auditor General schedules have been populated, advertised, and attached to the budget tonight for your consideration. During the budget hearing, the mayor has to open up the hearing and then close the hearing, and then the council can consider a motion for approval of the budget through Resolution 2023-06, which is the resolution to adopt the respective budget in front of the council tonight. That concludes my remarks, Mayor, members of the council. I'll be glad to address any questions.
So any questions from the council?
Yes. Gary, you mentioned in 2 years we're going to probably experience a reduction in tax revenue from the state.
Yes.
Any projections of what that will be, and what's the game plan to offset that?
So those were one-time fees that we never collected before. So it's not like we anticipated that incrementally every year. So that is about $200,000 to $300,000 that we'll collect this year and next year. After that, that money goes away.
But we didn't really rely on it for
No, we did not.
But I think our share from the state of income tax back to us will go down because their tax rate has gone down.
That is correct, and that's why there will be a reduction. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you said the state sales, the share tax?
No, the
income
state has
tax.
reduced their income tax rate,
Yeah.
and so that means their collection of income tax will be less. That means the share that they channel back to cities and towns will be less to each city and town.
And that's that 23, 25% we're talking about?
Correct. That's over the course of this next year, we anticipate about 25, 26% in state share revenue. Of that, one of the components is the income tax. The other one is sales tax. There's highway user revenue funds, and then there's vehicle license tax. Those are the four components that make up the state shared revenue.
Gary, actual versus estimated for, in terms of local sales tax this year versus next. I noticed that it's nearly double the estimated revenue this year versus the actual revenue. What is the likelihood, now that the Hampton Inn is up and running, more people are out and about, shopping, spending their money in town, that our estimated revenue next year will be a little closer to what the actual is this year?
There's always a good chance that that will happen. What we do when we anticipate, we're very conservative with our anticipation and forecasting of our sales tax. We base it on the 5-year average. So typically it will be above that 5-year average. But we want to ensure, since we can't control many variables associated with sales tax, such as the closing of a business. Nobody anticipated CVS closing. It closed. That has an impact on us. In the past, nobody anticipated the closing of the Carefree Resort. It closed. So we have to be conservative when we forecast our revenue streams, and that's why we base it on the 5-year average and not what the potential actuals might be, the forecasted.
We also have the rental income tax as well as grocery tax, which are under our target in the legislature for elimination, and we don't know what is going to happen with that. It's gone down once.
And that's a very good point. Is many years ago, construction sales tax was a target by the state legislature, and it took 5 years for them to make a change. And that change impacted local communities that were not along the railroad system. And the railroad system has all the warehouses. That's where they consider the cash registers to be. So the communities that have those warehouses and have those trains, which unload and then collect the sales tax there, get a lion's share of the sales tax that we used to collect. So the state legislature impacted us by recalibrating the construction sales tax. There has been talk this past year about recalibrating the rental tax and grocery tax. In fact, eliminating it. That would propose probably about a $400,000 hit to our budget. That will be a significant hit if that ever happens. Other communities like Cave Creek, it was over $1 million. So these are things that impact local communities that we also have to anticipate.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, on the county and state grants, 1.2 million, was that for the project for Greg, where he got the 1.2 million?
No, Greg's project is within his budget. Those funds go directly to the water company. The budget line there anticipates a grant that we received through the Maricopa Association of Governments for the pedestrian crosswalks. We are in the process of receiving those monies, and a grant that we also received through the flood control district to do that a fix of the drainage culvert off of Carefree Drive and Cave Creek Road.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll open up the public hearing. So anyone from the public is welcome to come up and speak. Just got to fill out a little form, and you can please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And Ms. Contreras, do we have any? No. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing. And I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2023-06.
Motion to approve Resolution 2023-06.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2, adjournment. We have a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you. And thank you for those who came.